Hey guys, it's Danny. Today we're going to discuss about the setup and the medium that I use with, not with every orchid, but let's say with different genera or groups of orchids. As you might know, I do grow most of my collection in LECA, self-watering, semi-hydroponics, but there are a few orchids which absolutely refuse to grow that way. There aren't many, but there are quite a few to note. And since recently or over the past few months we've kind of only concentrated on those, I do get from time to time quite a lot of comments asking what I grow this orchid in or that orchid in. So today we're gonna take a general look so you can see the main idea that I gravitate towards, what I keep in LECA, what turned out not to work for me in LECA. As you will see, some orchids are known for growing very well in LECA or in self-watering or semi-hydroponics actually, but for me simply don't work. It has to do with a lot of things, starting with environment, ending with your availability and lifestyle to care and water for a particular orchid in a particular setup. However, before we dive into the subject, I really wanted to address something that I talked about in the community section as well, but I want to address it in this video. I will add a timestamp somewhere if you just want to skip this part. It has to do with the current direction in which my channel is going. So I mentioned yesterday about my balcony days, and most of you guys were just so supportive, so nice about it. It was reminiscent a little bit, but I wanted to address a few opinions that from time to time I get here on my channel. Now, when I was at the beginning, 5 years ago, 4 years ago, I did not have many things available to me. I was living in Romania. I just did so much trial and error until I actually found a suitable medium, the bark that I was using. I didn't have the finance to actually buy anything more than orchids. I did try throughout my videos actually to test a few products. We tested the Orchid Focus back in the day. I didn't like some stuff. I liked other stuff. As much as possible, I always tried to test out stuff. The first thing that I was sent was the Orchid Top pot together with the kiwi bark, and I loved the kiwi bark. I always liked to test out stuff, but I did not have the possibility. So at the beginning, most of my videos were concentrated as much as possible on the care for orchids, but also on pretty blooms, also on flower spikes, buds. We used to make the balcony tours once a month. There was really nothing that I could talk about other than how my orchids are doing, updates, and so on. I've always wanted to try out more. I always wanted to develop more, but I just couldn't. And now, luckily enough, after 5 years, my channel is in the very lucky position to actually be noticed. Sometimes I am sent products, sometimes I buy them myself, sometimes even my viewers send them to me when they cannot use them anymore. I love trying out stuff because, yes, I love LECA, and yes, I am all pro inorganic, but not all of my viewers are, and me just ignoring the viewers who still want a bark or traditional medium, who still want to know if certain additives or certain fertilizers work. If I am to ignore all of those, I just lose. And I don't mean subscribers. It's not about subscribers here, it's about knowledge and experience. My channel is not my journal anymore. Yes, I do have my collection, and yes, we are noticing these orchids develop, and I will always keep you up to date because that's what I like to do. So I understand that some of you only want orchid tours type of videos, buds, blooms, and so on, but I want more than that, and there are viewers who do want something else. You are now lucky to actually have variety. When I started my YouTube channel, when I was learning about orchids, there were only 3 channels. I think now we have 30 or even more. There are so many people here on YouTube. Each of them are different, each of them do their own thing. There's just so much variety, you can always find something you like. If you don't want this type of content anymore and you're more reminiscent of my older balcony days, that's fine as well. Thank you so much for being with me so far, and I understand that you need to watch something else. You don't need to stick to the content that I intend to make in the future. You know what I'm saying? But I just hope you understand that I do want to do something else. I feel like I want to grow, and I do intend to take advantage of my position and do something that I think is useful with my position. My channel is not a journal type of channel. It's more than that. I want it to be more than that. So That's what I wanted to say. With that said, let's get to the video. Alrighty, so for those of you who don't really know my climate, I live in a subtropical climate. It is pretty warm most of the year, but in the winter time, things get a little bit rainy. It can go down below to 3-4 degrees Celsius. You'll have the Fahrenheit conversion on the screen right now. Most of the times though, it's pretty warm, and in the summer, very, very hot. So most of my core collection, let's call it like that, is in something that provides a lot of water. Also a lot of ventilation, because the vast majority of my orchids are epiphytic. And I personally do prefer inorganic media that do not decompose, do not make me repot periodically. I do have a big collection, and repotting, let's say 300 orchids once every 2 years, not something I can really afford to do. However, there are some orchids which absolutely dislike LECA, because it does have some properties which differ a lot from organic traditional medium. I do have a video talking a little bit more about this. Check the description down below if you do want to learn more. But the orchids that do prefer LECA in this hydroponic, let's call it, style of growing, just happen to be the vast majority of my orchids, which is really great, because again, it would be so costly to repot everything every so often. So the biggest group that I grow in LECA is my Cattleyas group, let's put it like that. In this group, I will place the intergenerics, the former Sophronides, Lelias, and all of those things that got reclassified as a Cattleya. So the genus itself can be Cattleyas, but things that are related or have been reclassified absolutely do great in this medium as well. So we do have the proper Cattleyas here, whether they're hybrids, primaries, or species, which are all doing super great and are accepting LECA, just like it's a medium they've always grown in, which is surprising. All of the Cattleyas didn't really suffer any setback or acclimation from me with this medium, even the ones that I transferred from bark to this medium. However, depending on how much you disturb the root system with a Cattleya, you'll have a better performing one or not. So LECA doesn't mean that the orchid will never be set back if you repot it in LECA. It just means that the new roots have absolutely no issue in growing in LECA, developing and just taking over the pot in many cases. We have the Brassavolas and their hybrids, also the Epidendrums and their hybrids, the Encyclias again and their hybrids. All of these orchids which are compatible in between them to create hybrids, they all grow super great in LECA. And this method of self-watering that I've tried this year has saved me a lot of time with watering. Depending on the orchid, the amount of the roots, how big it is, and the size of the pot, of course, I water once a week in the summertime, which is absolutely fantastic. Now in the winter, maybe once every 2 weeks. It doesn't matter if water is left in the reservoir, because I'm not keeping my grow space to very low temperatures. So water can sit in the reservoir. In winter, I don't intend to really fill up this reservoir here. I just want to have just a little bit of water inside to hydrate my orchid. But in the summertime, this has saved me quite a lot of time. So I'm really happy with how these orchids are growing. All of them, no exception. I did not meet a Cattleya type orchid yet that did not enjoy LECA. On the other hand, we have the Oncidiums, which, well, some of them accept LECA, some don't. The cherry babies are all growing pretty nice in LECA. What you see right here is an intergeneric. This is the Alisara. I think she has been reclassified now to Haitian Dancer. But there are things that absolutely do not accept LECA. Typically, intergenerics which have the former Odontoglossum in their genetics tend to prefer organic media, sphagnum moss, even bark, I would say, to LECA. So I do have some intergenerics which I prefer not to put in LECA. I'm not even going to attempt it from now on. The proper Oncidiums, they do pretty okay in it, but some intergenerics really dislike it. We've also talked about the Howiara lava burst yesterday. She absolutely despises LECA, did not grow a single root properly in LECA. Whatever root started, it would just stop growing. I am guessing it had to do with the amount of ventilation. That orchid, for me at least, requires a lot more moisture for a greater amount of time in my climate. On the other hand, we do have the Miltonias that are up there, which do seem to do pretty well in LECA, so I don't feel the need to repot them, at least not for the moment. I think they are growing okay in LECA. We'll see how they do in the future. I'm keeping my eyes on them because they require a lot of moisture. And I feel that all of these orchids which do require more moisture are not super happy in LECA in my environment. All of the other ones which can withstand some drought, they are actually happy in LECA. For now though, the Miltonias all do pretty great up there. Everything you see there, these are the Oncidiums. In the front I have the Twinkles. These are Miltonias and hybrids. Everything is in LECA and in self-watering, and everything appears to be doing okay. Some of these orchids are recovering, but they are recovering pretty well in LECA. Some orchids that do absolutely dislike LECA are the mottled-leafed Paphiopedilums, which this year I potted in bark, which sadly I need to change pretty soon because the quality of this bark is really not that good, and I'm keeping them in self-watering pots. They are pretty moist for most of the time, which they absolutely enjoy, but the medium, being that it's not the best of quality, doesn't enjoy it. So by next year, if I can, I need to repot them once again because the medium is already breaking down. The high moisture levels did promote the fast degradation of the medium. I have a mix of coconut peat or cocoa peat here and bark, which is okay for Paphiopedilums. They also make self-watering possible. Only in bark this would not work so great, but at the same time it degrades the bark very fast. As I was saying, it's not the best of quality. That one in the back there, I need to get to it ASAP. It is absolutely degraded. That's the compo medium. Anyway, so these orchids, yes, they do enjoy this medium. They have done much better in this bark mixture organic media than they did in the LECA. However, I'm not okay with the brand, and in this setup it just goes bad very fast, so I do need to switch to a better quality medium for them, which might mean I need to give up self-watering. That's okay though, because repotting them every year, not such a great idea. I'm all pro for repotting as less as possible. So the setup for them will have to be a bark-based setup from now on. I just have to face it, they do enjoy this better, but I need to find better quality products. Self-watering, not sure if it will stay next year, but definitely LECA is not coming back for these guys. On the other hand, the queens of the orchid world, the Phalaenopsis, the complex hybrids, and not only, they are all in LECA and they're all really enjoying the self-watering system. I can go 1 month without watering them because I have a big reservoir. I have big pots and they are just taking off, and I hope I'm filming correctly because right now I am below this shelf. But they have responded really great. As you can see, they're still pretty much in vegetative growth. They will start to produce flower spikes pretty soon, I hope. And all of the Phalaenopsis, pretty much, they do enjoy self-watering pots. Down below, I have the species, the summer blooming species in LECA as well. They do seem to enjoy it as well. Some of these orchids are recovering, some are not. Some are new additions which did not skip a beat from bark or sphagnum moss to LECA. They're all in LECA and in self-watering pots, and they all do seem to enjoy it quite a lot. I don't feel the need to actually change them unless I want to experiment and test out a product. Other than that, just changing everything, no, they will pretty much remain in LECA. When it comes to the Cattleyas, yes, we didn't talk about them. Well, it is their season kinda. Some of them, or actually one, is producing a flower spike. We'll see about the others. I dislike semi-hydro for them. They do accept LECA, but they're such drinkers. I cannot keep up with watering. So the setup of semi-hydro as it is with the reservoir inside the pot, no, will not stay next year. I'm gonna opt for self-watering, but I'm not sure about the medium. In the peak of summer, when these guys are growing to their fullest, I had to water them even once a day or every 2 days. I really don't want to do that anymore, so right now I'm debating self-watering with LECA or with pure moss. Yes, moss will degrade faster and also it will attract algae, but ever since yesterday's experience, I think I'm just gonna put a bit of bark on the surface or something that does not attract algae, and I will use opaque pots or at least masks. And even though moss deteriorates fast, these are the orchids that within a year, within 2 years, they will lose their roots. They are dormancy orchids and they do seem to lose their roots in their dormancy. Pretty much people repot them once a year. So even if moss breaks down within the year, that's okay. I need to repot them anyway. I need to mess around with their root system. They never mind it though. So these guys, self-watering, yes, but either with moss, either with LECA, I'm considering moss in the peak of summer. I'm struggling so much with these guys. And here we are outside. Here we have the Angraecums. My Angraecums finally did okay, but that's because I grew them outside. See, this is another thing that I tested out. I stuck with it even though I almost burned my plants until I got it right. And this is because I have so many viewers that grow their orchids outside, and I can grow orchids outside as well, that I just needed to understand. I needed to know what to say in my videos and what to advise people. So yeah, I almost burned my orchids, but in the process I learned many valuable things, and I'm just so happy I tried it. The Angraecums, they did fabulous. Both of them have flower spikes. Yes, I have concluded that the Vichy has a flower spike, which I think you can see right here. Oh, it's so sunny, I can barely see the viewfinder, but hopefully you can see this. This is a flower spike. Hoping to see more flower spikes from that guy. And this is the Sesquipedale. Yes, we have a flower spike on this guy as well. I just moved to the shadows. What I disliked a little bit with the Angraecums, particularly this one, this was sitting at the edge. And do you remember the big storm that kind of blew away my flowers, my Dendrobium Phalaenopsis? Well, they promoted some rotting here. This is not crown rot necessarily, because the infection has been stopped, but water pooled in the center here. Luckily, I didn't lose the crown. A new leaf sprouted, but the existing leaf, which was growing, was a little bit affected. I can actually pull this away now. So in my next year, I think I will try to shelter them. The Vandas and the Angraecums really are susceptible to stuff when it rains. The medium for the Angraecums is the LECA. This one is in self-watering, and the Vichy is in semi-hydro, just because I need to get a big self-watering pot actually, and I decided to let him be. He's okay. I'm gonna repot him next year. Both of these orchids were repotted this year. There was no setback with them, and I'm really happy on how they grew. Back there we have some Arachnis orchids, which are doing super great, again in LECA. My Vendacious orchids, which are now sitting in the greenhouse during nighttime, but outside in the daytime, are all bare rooted in the baskets. They are never potted, so no medium to talk about here. My Dendrobium Phalaenopsis, and not only the nobile types as well, are mainly in the LECA as well. They do great in LECA, and I don't feel the need to actually change the medium. I do enjoy the setup for them, the self-watering setup. They drink a lot of water in the summertime for me, but I think this works great, and yet again I don't feel the need to change it. Then we have the Bulbophyllums, which kind of conflicted. The Elizabethan buckleberry, which I will show you, does great in LECA. These guys not so much. This is the Echinolabium. He didn't really enjoy LECA all that much. He's in moss now. This is a new one. I just purchased it and decided to go for moss with it. The Elizabethan buckleberry, as I was saying, is doing great in LECA, so I don't feel the need to remove it. But with future Bulbophyllums, I think I might go with some moss. I can go with self-watering and a layer of something else at the top. I don't know about the bulbos. I'm not really decided yet. I need to experiment a little bit more. I do have here and there a few species which do like LECA. This is the Aranthus. She's doing great in LECA. And here's the Ceratostylus, which again is doing great in LECA. If I were to think about a trend, maybe the stuff that do require a lot of water, they don't really appreciate the LECA in my environment. I know there are a lot of people growing Paphiopedilums in LECA, self-watering or semi-hydro, with no troubles, but you could see I had a lot of troubles at the beginning of the year. So it does have to do a lot with environment. I will conclude that the warmer your environment is, the worse your very water-loving orchids will do in LECA. Not a rule, really. It also depends on your availability to water, of course, the actual growth space, and many factors. But these are the orchids which are in LECA and the ones that are not in my collection currently. And as I was saying, unless I do experiment with the product, pretty much they will remain in this setup. We'll see. Some of them I'm still not decided with, some of them I completely am. The Cattleyas will never go back to bark because they do just great as they are. The Phalaenopsis, again, never going back to bark unless I am testing out something. And the fine-rooted orchids which enjoy their moisture, I think they're gonna sit either in sphagnum moss, either in good quality bark. And there we have it. This is my collection, or at least an overview of my collection in the media they are in. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you have issues with the same orchids that I do in LECA, I do believe a change is necessary. I think there are just some orchids which don't like the properties, the efflorescence aspect, the airiness of LECA in warm climates at least, and there's nothing wrong with changing the setup and changing the medium. So with that said, thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you've enjoyed this. You know the drill. Like or dislike this video below, subscribe to my channel for regular orchid videos, tutorials, Q&As, and other fun orchid subjects. And if you like YouTube to notify you whenever I upload a new video, just turn on notifications for my channel. If you do want to learn more about my setup and everything that I use with my orchids, do expand the description. I have everything listed there. And with that said, I'll see you guys next time. Bye!